Buongiorno and welcome to my Way of Thinking podcast, or MWOT for short, hosted by me, Lee Greeno, here live from the Man Cave every week. Hope you're all doing well. This is part one of Mental Health Week here on MWOT. If you've seen the advert, you'll already know. 3 shows, 3 brilliant specialists, all to do with mental health, giving their advice, absolutely invaluable. There's one thing that I've been talking about quite a lot, and that is that everybody is suffering a little bit with mental health. And I thought it was really important to do some shows to offer some advice. Now, the podcast streamed on all the usual platforms. And if you do listen via Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star rating on there. The video, the chat is also on YouTube. If you put My Way of Thinking podcast in any of these, it'll come up. And also look at previous podcasts last week. I had a cracking podcast last week with Matt off Marriage at First Sight Australia, which was a fascinating insight. His journey was amazing. And I was also interested in the mental health aspect there, struggle to say that, where he had to look after himself and how the programme provided support and safety for him, which sounded a bit rubbish, if I'm honest, compared to the UK, which are very cautious and very aware of people's mental health. So that was a real interesting chat. Have a listen to that. There's also loads of brilliant episodes with people from all over the globe with all amazing journeys, so make sure you listen to those. Now, my way of thinking is about us, human beings that all have a story to tell, but for this week I wanted to cover mental health. So today we're going to be talking to the brilliant Victoria English. Victoria English is an absolute lovely lady. She's got so much to say, and she's so interesting in how she describes things. And she's met the Queen 3 times, don't forget that. But she's just a lovely woman and offers some brilliant advice. So please make sure you listen to that. Okay, this is me speaking to the brilliant Victoria. Welcome, the amazing Miss Victoria English. Woo! Morning, Victoria. Are you okay?
Yeah, morning. Oh, it's so lovely to speak to you. And I looked out in the garden today and we've got daffodils sprouting up. So spring is on its way. So
I know this morning the birds are singing really loud.
Yeah.
I can hear them now. There's loads of them outside here. So it definitely feels like it's sort of turning a corner. The weather is sort of easing off a little bit. I mean, it's still awful. But it is a fresher morning, would you say?
Absolutely. And I think that's what we've got to keep on holding on to, is that my great aunt said something that has always stayed with me, that everything passes, good and bad.
Yeah.
And the only constant in life we have is change. So you may have had a rubbish day yesterday, but today is a brand new, fresh day. You're not going to have it again. So it's a day to just celebrate the good bits, let the bad bits pass on by, and just try and live in the moment, because we only get one chance of this. None of us get out of this alive. And
Simon Cowell might.
Well, absolutely. But I think that, it's about realizing that every day is going to be different. And it's about, I was doing a talk last night with learners with learning disabilities, and it was about letting those thoughts go. Sometimes we ruminate, sometimes we get caught up in thoughts, and that can be like a vicious spiral. But we need to know that actually thoughts aren't real. And I think we have something like thousands and thousands of negative thoughts a day, and 99% of them don't come true. I'll talk a little bit about that later, but about the negative mindset. But we're actually programmed to think negatively, because that's what kept our ancestors alive. So we had to have a negativity bias. We had to respond more strongly to negative things than positive things, because that's what kept us alive. That's when, we were being chased by the saber-toothed tiger. We needed to be able to react quickly.
When was that? Last week?
Yeah, well, now it's paper tigers. Now it's emails and
I know.
and social media.
It's a different kind of animal now. Well, look, we haven't even started yet, and you're giving out great bits of advice. So I'm really looking forward to this. Now, we got connected, and first of all, just want to talk a little bit. If you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came into this role and what sort of you specialise in and things like that.
Okay, so if I tell you a little brief bio of me and why I've chosen to do what I do. So if we go back to little Victoria, Victoria was, I remember me as being almost like a jigsaw with a piece missing. I always grew up knowing that there was something a bit different about me, and latterly, only in my adult life, I realised that was dyspraxia. So I have a learning disability. I'm neurally divergent, whatever that means. But I knew that that something was different. I was a clumsy child. It's lack of motor skills, so lack of hand-eye coordination. But that almost culminated in me having very, very poor self-esteem. And I became very anxious as a child. I was quite bullied. Then before I went to Exeter University, I developed anorexia.
Oh, God.
And then throughout my life at various junctures, I have suffered with depression, anxiety, panic attacks. Now, it's not all bad. I've spent 25 years teaching in as a college lecturer. I have met the Queen 3 times. I know.
The Queen, how good's that? What did she say to you?
Well, the first time I went to the Commonwealth Club, and our film was put in the Royal Collection, in the Jubilee Collection, and out of 82,000 entries, we were chosen to be in the top 60.
Wow.
So that's impressive, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the first time I was just absolutely gobsmacked. I'd been told all the protocol, how to approach mom and and what to say and what not to say, and not to put your hand out, wait for her. And I'm usually very chatty, and I just stood there because I just thought, oh my goodness, that's the Queen in front of me. So I think that's the first time I've been speechless. The second time I met her at Buckingham Palace, and I was introduced to her, and we just spoke to her, and that was surreal as well. There was Princess, not Eugenie, who's the other one? Beatrice there, and the Queen, and there was about 100 people having a champagne reception at the palace. Yeah, check me out. And it was talked to her about the charity work that I was doing, and I was with a couple of students with learning disabilities, so it was really exciting. And then this third time I took my dad to a garden party, darling. And that was fab. And I just talked to her again about the charity work that I was doing and about my passion for mental health. So,
and what did she say? How was she?
She was great, and she was saying, I said, oh, it's brilliant, it's such a sunny day, because it was a lovely day. And then it got reported in Hello and various newspapers, my quote, which I'd said, it's wonderful to have a sunny day. And she said, yes, one does hope when one invites 4,000 people to one's garden, one hopes that the weather's going to be good. One does worry. So yeah, it was funny, but
wow.
But yeah, great. And I think my learning disability and perhaps the challenges and adversity I've faced earlier on in my life has really given me a tremendous drive to achieve, to prove myself, to prove that I'm worthy of something. And so almost my dyspraxia has become my superpower, in that it's given me that grit, that edge to actually want to make something of myself.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I've interviewed people on here with Asperger's and things like that. And it's a similar thing. It's pretty hard growing up, but as you get older in life, you find, if anything, it's helped them. So it's quite interesting. Just going back to that, did you get diagnosed early on, or did you go through all your school years not knowing? Yourself, you felt something weren't right, whereas around you, everyone was like, is that right?
It was really, it was awful. And even my father would say, Victoria, you know, you're not, he would call me lazy. He would say, no, I'm not trying hard enough, because my handwriting was very poor. And it was only because I was lucky that my mum taught at the secondary school where I went, that I was able to be put into a stream where I could achieve. Because in junior school, I was actually sat next to the girl who was very severely disabled, and I was written off, really. And then I went on to get 11 O levels, 3 A levels, went to Exeter Uni, Cardiff Uni. But I always knew that there was something different. And it wasn't until my sister was studying about child development in New Zealand, when we were both in our 20s, that she said, Victoria, you've got dyspraxia. And I read about it and I thought, oh my goodness, that's me. It's the child who was the last child to be picked in the reject team in sports. It was, what else? I couldn't write properly. I couldn't catch a ball. I found it difficult with social interactions.
I bet that was like a massive weight off your shoulder, wasn't it? When you found that out.
Because it felt less personal. It felt less Victoria being rubbish. And there was a reason for it, and that I was neurally divergent. And now, but again, from that has come my passion to, so my career, I lectured in sociology and psychology, and then I went into college management. I didn't like that because I love warm fuzzies, but I don't like sort of saying, I'm sorry, mate, you haven't got any more hours. You know, that I don't do that, don't do that well. So then I went into my other passion, which was teaching students with learning disabilities. And what I found was that the toolkit that I developed for myself to look after my mental health was something that I could employ with the learners with learning disabilities. And often it wasn't their learning disability which was causing the biggest barrier to them engaging with the curriculum. It was actually their lack of confidence, self-esteem, their lack of well-being. You know yourself that if you are in a bad place mentally, it's very difficult to achieve.
Yeah, and that's a good point, I suppose. When you know people have the potential, and from your background, these are intelligent people, but because of their emotions and their self-esteem and confidence, they're not bringing across that intelligence or making the most of themselves. It's holding them back, isn't it? And that's something that I think I can see that you're the type of person that wants to open that up and let the person realise what they can achieve. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. And it ranges very much. It could be socioeconomic. So when I was teaching sociology, and maybe it was at a FE college, maybe they hadn't been given the self-belief in at school, maybe it was the wrong time for them, but it was restoring that confidence and that self-belief. And often I think it's the teachers that have that put the barriers in place, who maybe don't give the young people the confidence and the empowerment tools that they need. And I think so many young people are wasted by the system. I think we lose so much talent because we aren't inclusive and we don't celebrate creativity, and we feel that academic achievement is the gold standard, whereas I think when we look to postmodern society, we'll realize that actually the skills of creativity, thinking outside the box, people who are who think differently are the ones who are really going to achieve, and the skills we need in the future, because we know that in the future we will need those creative thinkers, because all the jobs that are sort of manual and the jobs that can be done by a machine will be.
Yeah.
So that, together with having suffered with poor mental health at various junctures throughout my life, made me really passionate then latterly in my career, the last 10 years of my career, to give this toolkit to other people. And throughout my 20s and 30s and 40s, I was given a prescription by the hard push GP, which would just be really something that would deaden my emotions and perhaps help me cope. And I'm not saying that they're bad, because I still take medication for my anxiety, but there were a whole host of other things that I could encourage other people to do that would really help them actually have better mental health and well-being. And I then went on to set up a happy cafe, which is a place that really celebrates the things that we can do for happier living, like a pop-up cafe at the college.
Which college was that?
It was at Coleg Gwent.
Oh, right. Okay. Whereabouts are you based?
So I'm
Victoria?
South Wales.
Right. South Wales. Over the
Yeah.
border.
Yeah. So I had another accolade then. I was voted by the Independent one of the top 50 people happy on the happy list who bring, a contribution to society. So that was amazing.
You're just showing off now, aren't you?
I am showing off. That's really bad, and my son is going to go mad. He's going to say, "Mum, this isn't you're supposed to be helping people. This isn't a platform to just,
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. And it sounds brilliant, because what you've said there, you are basically saying, this is why I'm so passionate. It doesn't come from a place of education. Yes, of course, you've been educated. But I think when you are personally involved with those things and you've been through those things, the education sort of tops you up. But you can't educate someone to be passionate about something like you are.
Absolutely. And I think my model has always been to empower others, and I don't want anybody to go through what I've been through, whether it be the bullying, whether it be feeling less than, whether it be poor mental health. And so what I'm so passionate about now is working with young people, working with managers, working with teachers, youth workers, giving them information that they can then impart to help others to know that they're not alone, that everybody has mental health, whether it be good, bad. And these are some really excellent tools that you can use day to day, easy interventions that really do make a difference.
Now, I had, so this is part of a mental health week for the podcast, and I've already had one lady on, Sarah McCaffrey. She was fantastic. She works in the creative industry with film, TV, things like that, and working with people mental health wise there. So, but what I'm interested with yourself, obviously we can cover lots of things, but one thing I did notice is about children. You work with children, and I think it's easy to just forget children, because as an adult, we're going through it. We're furloughed. We're not at work. We are at work. Now, I have two children. My daughter's 12, so she's been working through school at home. And my son's 19, and he went through a hell of a year last year, because he's 18. And, of course, imagine turning 18 and not being able to go out with your mates. It's been horrendous for him. And he suffered as well. So what sort of things can we do as parents for our children, and what do we look out for? Because it's easy to just forget about children, and they're going through it too, aren't they?
Absolutely. And I had a conversation this morning about just that. And I have a 21-year-old who's had 2 years of university disrupted, and who is again going through exactly the same as your son. It was his 21st birthday in December, and what can you do? He's supposed to be having an amazing time at university, and he's stuck home with his mother. It's not great. But first and foremost is kindness and compassion, and being able to empathize with young people that this is their time. This is their time where they need that peer interaction. This is the time where they need to be biologically, they need to be with their friends. So for adults, it's easier. For some people are really enjoying it because it's time away from the workplace. They're enjoying being in their comfort zone at home. They are happier to kick back with Netflix and a takeaway than for younger people who really need to be out there and amongst their age group. Some tools that I would suggest employing: keep those conversations going. We know that actually if you are able to express how you're feeling, there's a certain part of the brain called the amygdala, and that's the emotional part of the brain. That's where your fight flight comes from. That's where any kind of stress evolves from. And we know that actually if you express your emotions, so if you say I'm feeling jealous or I'm feeling sad, that will reduce the impact on the emotional part of the brain by 50%. And it's called name it to tame it.
Name it to tame it.
Yeah. So it's a really excellent. Now, your child might not want to talk to you. They might not feel very comfortable about expressing their emotions. So another tool is journaling. I've got a journal here that I complete every morning, and you can do a brain dump where you write down just continual thoughts of in the morning, everything that you're feeling. And again, that will do exactly the same. It will reduce that impact on the emotional part of the brain, and you will be able to rationalize and sort of release that negative emotion, negative energy, and that's a great way of relieving stress. Another strategy that I have used with the children that I teach, and also with friends and family, is gratitude journaling, and that's another thing that I do. And there's lots of gratitude journals out there that you can buy or download off the internet. And what you're doing there, Lee, have you ever thought about buying a car? Say it's a white BMW, and then all the next day, all you can see are white BMWs.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's a reason for that. It's because what you're doing, you will not see everything that's going on in the world. Our brain filters out so much, and what we do most commonly, our brains are very repetitive, so you'll carry on being with those thought patterns. But actually, by writing 3 things down that you're grateful for every morning, programs your brain to actually look for the positive. So it trains your brain to look, rather than looking for the negative, to look for the positive. So you will then, throughout the day, remember good things. So a good friend, a university friend of mine, sent me flowers yesterday, and I thought, oh great, I can put that in my gratitude journal. Had a lovely cuddle with my dog, put that in the gratitude journal. And they may be simple things like having a really lovely cup of coffee. I'll put about talking to you on the podcast today. But it's a way of getting over that negativity mindset, because that's the other thing, that actually we are programmed to be more negative, because it's what's helped to stay alive. But I think the major point would be to keep those conversations going.
Yeah, that's great advice, and that rings true with me completely. For instance, the other day, my son completely blanked me in the morning. I was like, morning, completely blanked me. I could tell he was in a mood. And I argued with him. And as I'm older now, I step back a lot more. And so we had a bit of an argument, nothing major. But I said to him, you need to get yourself sorted, get yourself in a routine, because he was going to the gym and things like that, and saying you need to do this, get change, just do things like that. And I'm shouting these orders at him. But the reality is, when I stepped back and later on he'd gone upstairs, then I was thinking, right, now I need to talk to him again and just have a chat with him, because his age and a lot of kids don't like talking. They don't like to talk. They don't like to express their emotions. And I try, and he's never going to be, he's not going to give out his emotions freely and tell me everything. But if I can just have a little chat, and we spoke, and he apologized, and it's trying to work with your children, isn't it? I could have easily kept it going, kept arguing. I mean, that, to be honest, is probably the first argument we've had throughout the whole lockdown. So, which is pretty good going, but I could see some parents really arguing a lot. But it's like you say, arguing is not going to fix it. You've got to talk, because they're going through a lot the same way as you are. I suppose he's going through a lot, I'm going through a lot, and you just clash. That is a brilliant bit of advice you've got there. And and I love the way you explain it as well. So the gratitude, I've heard that before about gratitude, but I didn't realize that it will make you think positively. Because another thing is, what I've noticed is the negativity will just grow. If you wake up in the morning, you're in a mood, and then something else and something else, it just seems to continue and continue, and you have to stop that. And this writing down what you're grateful for is a great tool for that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about adolescent behavior, and the fact that they will react strongly, what happens is that they are reacting from, again, the emotional part of their brain, because the prefrontal cortex, the part of their upstairs part of the brain, doesn't fully form. That's the part of the brain which keeps our emotions in check, doesn't fully form until 30 for males and 25 for girls. So they will react far more strongly, because they'll be reacting from the emotional part of the brain. And what we've got to try to do, very much like you did, is take that step back and really try to empathize with how they're feeling, and try to then repair that relationship and get them to sort of go into the top part of the brain, which enables them to sort of rationalize and see the situation more clearly. But the only way you're going to get them into that upstairs part of the brain is by slowly coaxing, empathizing, and really trying to understand where they're coming from, because they don't have the tools at that age to actually get into that prefrontal cortex, that rational part of the brain. They're just reacting very much like a toddler would react, or very much like some people react when they have road rage, and they're just not thinking. That rational part of the brain is not engaging. Yeah. But if you think of that, that for teenagers, is that on steroids, And the other thing that's really interesting to know is that teenagers don't actually have the capacity. Their brain hasn't formed properly yet to read facial expressions. So you might be have an expression of concern, and they will misread it as disgust.
Right.
So I've had this situation where perhaps I've said to my son something, I wish you'd perhaps put your dirty washing in the laundry basket.
Yeah.
And I was saying it in a really nice way, and he'll go off the wall like something out of Harry Enfield, like, have you seen that sketch where you've got Kevin goes up the stairs at 16 and then he comes down and he's grunting.
Yeah. I hate you.
Yeah. There's a reason for that. And I think this is what we need to, I'm a great advocate for teaching parents as well as young people, because you need both sides of the coin. You need children to understand how their brain works, but then parents to be able to communicate with their young people in a way which actually fits their stage of brain development, and compensate for the fact that their brain is still being structured.
It's interesting you say that, Victoria, because, you know, parenting is so key here. Now, when I first became a parent, it was nappies, looking after your kids, making sure they're safe, teaching them what you can, trying to be a good parent. And now it's a whole new stage of parenting, because I thought, right, that's me done and dusted, happy days. Now it's a lot more, there's another challenge now, if you like, where they're older and you're teaching them and you're still parenting them, but it's totally different. It's a whole new ball game. And like you say, it's more about a lot more to think about now, a lot more to think how they're feeling. Whereas before it was, right, you're growing up, I'll look after you, feed you, make sure you know right from wrong. Now it's a lot more complex, because if my son's feeling down and he seems down, I'm thinking, what's wrong with him? There's something happened with his mates. Is it a girl? Do you see what I mean? Because he's older, he's got all these complexities as well. So it is a new ball game completely of parenting, isn't it?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that, and that's so true. And they say that that actually childhood is extending, you know, till 25, 30. And if you think about
I hope not.
I know, if you think about it, years ago, there would be more extended families where they would have people to talk to. It might be too close to home to talk to mum or dad, but they would have grandparents, they'd have aunts and uncles, they'd have neighbours who would be able to actually conduct this kind of social dialogue, which would help, again, them to feel better. They wouldn't have social media, which I feel is an enormous source of stress for young people. So I think I know we've moved on immensely in so many different ways, but there are so many more challenges, I think, for our young people.
Yeah, definitely. And that definitely rings true. And anyone listening to this must realise, especially if they're older, that look at when we were kids. God, we sound old now. Look at when we were kids outside playing. We didn't have an iPad. And like you say, we had interaction. I knew the neighbours, their kids. We all went outside and played football. Yes, you know, we got into maybe fights or arguments, but then we played, we had fun. The 6-week holiday at school was all outside and it was fantastic. Now, kids sit in their bedroom, and I mean, I know because of lockdown it's got worse, but they've lost that interaction, haven't they? And that's a dangerous thing.
They've lost reality as well, and I think that is the most dangerous thing. If you were a child or a teenager that had a flat chest, sort of funny teeth, and a flat bottom, you know, that was your lot, and you just got on with it, you know. But now look at Love Island, and not only do you have to look like that and spend money, have pressure to look like these sort of completely unrealistic filtered images, you actually then get graded on it. You know, you actually then have to think, not only do I have to look this way, but actually how many likes do I have, and how many likes does that equate to my worth as a person. And when I put on a conference for young people a couple of years ago, and I thought I got the Manic Street Preachers involved, I got Michael Sheen, the Welsh actor, and it was amazing. But I thought I'll try and get some people on from Twitter that they follow. And I just left me so depressed, because it was all people who were influencers who had absolutely nothing in their toolkit other than being famous for being famous. And I thought, are these the people that young people look up to? And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But and lockdown again, I think, has brought in, I know through my research, that the pressures that have been brought on by social media to look a certain way, to have lost a certain amount of weight, or for guys to have bulked up, or to be having the best life. And we know that social media is just a show reel of the highlights of our lives, but young people actually will not see it like that. Their brain doesn't process in that way, and they will see it as reality. Again, with images, I'll go and see friends' children, and I'll see them on social media, and they look completely different in real life. And it's because they that you can do whatever you can to your face.
I've got hair on my social media.
Oh no, I love it. I love a man who's bald, rocking that well.
But that's a good point. I mean, social media, we talk about it quite a lot on the podcast. I think social media is a brilliant thing as long as you take it for what it is and use it wisely. And again, down to parenting, parents have got to try and educate their kids and say, look, you realise this is not real. And that's it's bloody difficult. But so that's talking about my son. Let's talk about the younger age, sort of. My daughter's just started going to secondary school, so she's homeschooled. But she's becoming a teenager, and everything's changing in her body, and same for lads at that age. What can we do for those kids while we're in lockdown and to ensure their mental health's okay? Because it's so easy for her she does her school and then she'll be on her phone and that's it. And it's just a routine of phone lessons. And sometimes I just think, get outside, do something. What can we do for that sort of age group, Victoria?
I think it's really important that you develop a schedule, and that you develop a schedule for connection, for time outside. We know that by going outside, it actually reduces, again, the stress on the emotional part of the brain, the amygdala, again, by about 50%, just by being in the outdoors. By walking, you get out of, when we ruminate, we're in the default mode network. So when we're just sitting around the house, we're in the default mode network and we're ruminating and we can start worrying. But again, if we start walking, we get out of that default mode network and we start just being in the moment. Okay. So exercise is really key. Talking, connection, whether it be going on Zoom to talk to family or friends. Also, doing something crafty is really good, because again, you can lose yourself in that activity, whether it be Lego, whether it be painting, drawing, making something out of recycled items, whether it be reading. These are the kind of activities which will be great for well-being of the younger generation, and actually talk to them about, like you say, about social media. Talk to them about the fact that if you are just indoors all the time, then you are going to have stress build up, and that a great way of relieving that stress is by doing, there's something called the 5 ways to well-being, and they are learning, taking notice, giving. Another brilliant way to make yourself feel good and make them not sort of be so focused on themselves is to do things for other people. So that could be collecting things for a food bank, it could be making a card for grandparents, it could be offering to do something for elderly neighbours, and you get such a buzz out of it, far more of the buzz than the person does that receives it. So that's another great way of building up well-being, being active. So as I say, scheduling time in. We all often think that it's going to be great having a lie-in at the weekend, and we're going to feel much better for it. Actually, by spending more time in bed, we're spending more time in that default mode worrying network. We're much better off getting up, doing something, and then it sets the tone for the day.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I talk about this quite a bit as well. I run. I don't enjoy running, And I exercise. I've always exercised, so it's got me in a good routine throughout my life. But I don't really enjoy running. And whenever I go, I'm like, oh, but I never come back and feel bad. You know, I've been doing it for years and years, and when I get back, I feel great. Now, people haven't got to go for a run, but it's exactly the same mindset for people who don't really walk. When they first think about it, it's like, oh, I've got to go for a walk. But I can guarantee you, when you get back home, you'll feel great. And that's just a steady walk. So I think it definitely rings true. Any kind of exercise and getting outside, getting that fresh air definitely makes a difference, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely, because you're releasing all those positive endorphins, and getting your circulation going, but getting out of your head. I mean, that's the major thing, is getting out of that headspace, and getting more clarity of thought.
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
really suggest looking into those. So giving, doing things that are more mindful. So mindfulness is another great thing that I
Yeah.
really suggest, and it can be just simply brushing your teeth. When you're brushing your teeth, thinking about the sensations in your mouth as you're brushing your teeth, and concentrating on that rather than thoughts going on in your head. It can be going out on a walk and taking notice. So taking notice of 5 things you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, then something that you can smell. But those, being more observant. And then of course there's the meditation breathing, which I really advocate. There's a great app called Calm that's got sleep stories on.
Yep.
It's got special aspect routines for children, and that's really good as well.
And headspace as well.
Yeah.
This year, I don't really make resolutions, but this year I've been trying for years to meditate, and I'm actually getting somewhere this year. And headspace is great. It's free. And like you say, it doesn't have to be full-blown meditation. It's just thinking about something else,
Mm.
the sounds, look around, and not thinking about all these thoughts that are just flying
Mm.
around. Now, obviously, talking about thoughts, adults, parents, forget
Yeah.
about the kids now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a stressful time for us all as well.
Mm.
What
Mm.
sort of things do you think we can do to help? Because some people, what I've noticed, and the reason why to do this mental health week is the first lockdown, people got through it. Then there was a bit of a rest. Then we had a little one. Now, this time, I've noticed more people are struggling. And regardless of how bad the struggle is, no one can say they've not struggled, even if you're still working, because we are confined to this, and our minds are telling us, right, we're not in prison, but we're not in control, and no one likes that. What sort of things can we do to help with that? Because everybody is feeling the pressure, I think.
I think number one is self-compassion. We are going through a pandemic. This isn't easy, and it's taking the pressure off ourselves to be the perfect teacher, to be the perfect parent, to be the perfect partner. Do the best you can. As long as you're trying to keep your children healthy and happy. I've seen far too many people who are feeling, and again, this goes back to parents seeing other people on social media who are saying that their children are amazing in their routine and doing amazing things at
Makes
school.
me
And it's,
sick.
oh, I know. Can I swear? I want to say a really big swear word.
Well,
It's
they're full of
just,
shit.
yes, yeah, bollocks, I'd say. It's all, I know. Sorry, is that bad? Do you
No,
have to
that's
bleep
fine.
me out?
That's fine.
But it's all rubbish. And if you go, as you say, it's about being kind to yourself. It's about knowing that this is hard, and our resilience each time we've had lockdown has been dented, and now we're really getting to the end of the race now, if we see it as a race, and we are struggling, and it is about acknowledging that we are in the pandemic. It has been really hard, and just being really kind to ourselves. And if you can get through the day, that is enough. And not put pressure on ourselves to complete amazing goals, and to know that other people are struggling too. And I think that really helps when we are able to have those open and honest conversations. And often when we are open and vulnerable with how we are feeling, then other people will open up too. And we know that we're not alone in this struggle.
Yeah. And the other thing I've noticed as well is people have got stuck in a rut with eating and drinking. I've been drinking too much. I've probably been eating too much. What can we do about that? Because that is such an easy thing to slip into, isn't it?
It is. And again, I think it's about if you've had a particularly bad week or a bad day, that doesn't have to define your year. Small steps, incremental steps add up to big change. And it's about actually making, if you've got a sweet tooth, or if you have a tendency to don't have it in the house. You know, your willpower is far more strengthened by it being less available to you. So leaving those treats the weekend, perhaps having that helps us then to have more of a schedule to our week, because we do feel at the moment like every day fades into every day. So perhaps you know, keep those treats for the weekend. But also, again, it's about self-compassion and not judging, and not then going on that spiral of self-contempt and guilt, and it making us want to have those things more. It's about being kind to ourselves and thinking, well, tomorrow's a fresh day, and let's see what I can do to actually make a change.
Yeah, definitely. I've found with drinking, especially with alcohol, is myself and my wife, we sort of work it out together. We chat about it. Have we drank too much? You know, let's not drink until the weekend. And then you're sort of working through it together. And that sort of helps, because it's so easy in the week to drink, whereas before you rarely would. Now we're like, oh, glass of wine. But I think another thing that you said, which is really good, is don't beat yourself up about it. So if you do have a glass of wine, it's not the end of the world. You're not becoming an alcoholic. So
Absolutely.
It's getting that fine medium, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we're in a pandemic, for goodness sake. We're in a pandemic. You know, be kind to yourself. That is the biggest message that I would like to send over, is that when we're kinder to ourselves and when we feel better about ourselves, then we're more likely to make the right choices.
Yeah, definitely. Now, finally, if we see loved ones or other people we know and we think they're struggling, what sort of things should we look out for, Victoria?
People becoming more withdrawn, people talking about feeling very negative, feeling very low. Also, if somebody is talking about not wanting to be here anymore, or having thoughts of ending their lives, do not feel afraid to say, are you having thoughts of suicide? Is this something that are you thinking of ending things? Because actually that can be a massive relief to people, that they're able then to unload some of these feelings. And what I've known through suicide prevention training is that we don't ask that question often enough, and we need to be direct in our questioning. Now, people don't ask that question because they are of the belief that it will put that seed of thought in people's minds. And you couldn't be further from the truth. Actually, it's a way of showing
your dog attacking you there. Let's have a look.
Oh, look at her.
Oh, what's her name?
Betty Florence English.
Oh, Betty Floris English. What a beautiful
Florence.
night. Florence English.
Florence. Yeah, and then next week on the 16th we have got Flossie Tabitha English arriving. Your
Flossie
sister.
Tabitha. See, Victoria, your dog's names are so classy. My dogs are called Walter and Alabama.
Oh, they're so cute though. And actually, pet therapy is the best. They get you outdoors. They love you unconditionally. And yeah, they're great friends to have. So
Oh, they
she's
are.
really helped me through lockdown. Really especially.
Definitely. I mean, our dogs have helped me, because when you look at your dog, when you're feeling down, you look at your dog and you think, be like the dog.
Absolutely mindful. So yeah, have those open conversations. Direct them to some of the amazing websites which are available, or helplines. There is help out there. There are things that you can do to actually have better mental health and well-being. Did you know also that not having connection is the equivalent to smoking 2 packets of cigarettes a day?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's actually shortened your life by 8 years. So pick up that phone, talk to people. I know I'm I don't really like sort of Zoom. I find it really difficult sort of seeing myself, but get on these platforms and have a chat. Reach out to people. It is really, really good for your mental health and well-being.
Yeah.
And reach out.
So really, if I was to say to you one bit of advice that you could give, what do you think that would be?
I think it would be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. You're living through a pandemic. Make sure that you actually forget that negative self-talk. Be kind and compassionate to yourself and to your loved ones, and things will get better. Have that hope and that optimism, and reach out.
Brilliant bit of advice. And just speaking to you this morning, Victoria, that has made my day and made me feel a lot more positive. So just something as simple as a great conversation in the morning.
Absolutely.
With yourself. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. If people want to go onto your website or find you on Instagram, what's...
Yeah, so I'm the English Well on Twitter. At the English Well. I think I'm at the English Well, at the English Wellbeing on Instagram, and Facebook. I put a lot on Facebook, so Victoria English on Facebook, and my website is www.victoriaenglishwellbeing.org.
Well, I had to send you an email earlier. It took me about half an hour to write your email address.
Oh, sorry.
But your website is great. There's some great information, like you say, on Facebook as well for people to look at.
Oh, thank you.
So that's a really great thing. Well, look, make sure you stay in touch, and hopefully, sort of when we come through this, we'll get you back on, and we'll talk about your journey, because that sounds like we could take up all day. It sounds
absolutely
fascinating.
Would love to. And you have a wonderful day, and big love to everybody who's listening. And remember, it's going to get better.
It is.
It's going to get better.
Right. God bless. Okay. See you later, Victoria.
Bye.
So that's it. Massive thanks again to Victoria for joining me today, and also for you for listening or watching. Make sure you follow the podcast, because as I say, we've got tomorrow and Friday 2 more mental health episodes, and then the week after we've just got some amazing, let me tell you, interviews. I know it's easy for me to say that, but trust me, some of the journeys are fascinating stuff. To keep up to date, go on Facebook, which is My Way of Thinking Podcast. Instagram is MWOT Podcast. Twitter is My Way of Thinking with a 3 on the end, without a G. Every week, I also put the whole conversation on YouTube. Just put More Thinking Podcast in there. And finally, if you want to get in touch or you think you'll be a great guest, then just email me, mwotpodcast@aol.com. I really hope you found today's episode interesting. Just make sure you're listening tomorrow because it's going to get even better. Until next time, God bless. Take care.